Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 36 of my podcast. My name's Emma and this is where I share everything that I've been making lately. How are you all doing? I hope you have been having a lovely month. It's almost July, I can't believe it. I'm filming on Thursday the 27th of June. So I thought it would be nice to come on today and update you with what I've been working on this month really, and then at the end of next month I'll be able to film another episode and give you an update on what I do next month. But yeah, I've been quite busy. It's going to be quite a crochet heavy episode. I've been crocheting a lot lately. I've really got back into my crochet, but I do have some knitting projects as well. I've also got a pattern release to share with you. I've released a crochet pattern, or re-released one, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's been a long time since I've done that. So I'm going to get straight on and share with you what I've been up to for the month of June. Okay, so last time that we chatted, I mentioned that I had some old crochet patterns that I'd released quite a while ago. I think about 4 years ago. I kind of got into doing it during lockdown when it was COVID, and after a while I decided to take them down. But I wanted to rework them and re-release them, and originally I thought that I would just not alter the patterns or anything, but just remake the actual blankets, the actual patterns. They're all blankets. I thought that I would remake them in maybe some nicer yarn, in colours that are a bit more in keeping with the colour schemes that I tend to use nowadays, and I wanted to reformat and rewrite the patterns and just spruce them up a bit. And I did a poll on Instagram asking which pattern people would like me to work on first, and everyone voted for the Cosmos blanket. So I think I called it the Cosmos blanket because I had the flower in mind. I love Cosmos flowers, but I think looking back, it's not that clear that refers to the flower. So I decided to rename this one, and it's now called Daisy. It's called the Daisy blanket. And I set about reworking it, and I got some new yarn. The yarn that I got is Stylecraft Naturals Bamboo and Cotton, which is a really beautiful yarn. It's got gorgeous drape to it, beautiful stitch definition. And I got a colour called Canyon for the main colour, and I'm going to show you the blanket in a moment, but the main colour is kind of a pinky brown, I'd say. It's definitely got brown undertones to it. And then I chose a colour called Ecru for the contrast colour. So let me just show you the blanket, and then I am going to chat with you about it. I'll just make sure that I've got it the right way. And here it is. I'm really happy. I think you can see as I'm holding it up how gorgeous and drapey it is, and obviously it's quite difficult to show you it properly on camera, just me holding it up, so I will pop a picture in so that you can see it properly in all its glory, because it is such a pretty blanket. I really like it. Can you see if I hold it there with the wall behind it, you can see the lovely flower detailing. So the reason that I decided to make this in a bamboo and cotton mix is because of the lace detailing. The original was worked in a cotton as well. I think it would also work really well with a wool, like a merino or something like that. But I do think it needs to be worked in a yarn that does block well. I'm not sure how well it would work up in acrylic, and in fact one of my lovely pattern testers did do a small swatch for me in acrylic and one in cotton as well, and she did comment to me that the acrylic one didn't quite work up the same or look as nice. So like I say, I didn't plan to make any changes to the stitch pattern. I wanted to keep everything the same. but I did end up revising this one quite a bit. So I've actually got a swatch here of the original stitch pattern. So this is what the original lace panel looked like, and if I stretch it out a bit you can really see. So it's got this kind of detailing up here and this detailing down there as well, and I just found that it was not very intuitive. I think when you're designing something and kind of you're so focused on the stitch pattern, you kind of get used to it. But then because I'd obviously had such a long break in between making this, when I picked it up again, I just found it quite a difficult stitch pattern. So I found this detailing here was just a little bit unnecessary. I don't think it really added anything to the pattern, and in a way it kind of made it look less like a flower. And also I found that the stitches on either side didn't really correspond very well to each other. And what I mean by that is, so the stitch count that you've got on either side here at the bottom of the daisy didn't match the stitches here at the top. That will hopefully become more clear in a moment when I show you what I did. So I ended up having a bit of a play around and I changed the stitch pattern quite a bit. So I got rid of the top and the bottom detailing. So I think, well, hopefully you'll agree that that makes it look much more flower-like, and it does look much more like a daisy, I think, than a cosmos anywhere. But I also altered the stitch counts on either side of the actual daisy. So if you can see, it's got 5 stitches here, then it goes to 4, then it goes down to 2, then it goes up to 4 again, back up to 5. The original one didn't do that. None of the stitch counts matched, and I just found that having it like that made it so much more easier and intuitive as you're working it, because you could look back at the rows that you'd already worked and think to yourself, right, okay, well, if I've got 4 stitches there, well, now I need to increase back up to 4 stitches here. So I changed that. I also ended up reworking the border quite a bit, so I'll bring it closer so you can see. I had quite a lot of difficulty with the border. It just would not behave, and it took me quite a while to get it to a point that I was fully satisfied with. So if you look, what I've started off with here is a round just of double crochets. This differs to the original pattern because the original pattern started off with a round of half trebles. I'm in the UK, so I use UK crochet terminology. And I just think it sits much better with that original round of double crochets to how it sat before. The problems that I had with it was getting the sides of the blanket to lay straight. The first time that I made it, it rippled because I had too many stitches. The second time that I made it, it was too tight because I didn't have enough stitches. The third time, the sides were just right, but then I had a problem with the corners as well. So I've used a picot edging for this, and I had to alter it a little bit in the corners. I am planning to pop a tutorial on for this edging to explain it properly, but it's all detailed in the pattern anyway. So yes, this one ended up having quite a significant makeover, and I do think it is much improved. I have an accompanying video tutorial to go with the pattern just for the daisy stitch part, because I do think that it's upside down. I do think that this panel here that's in between the daisy stitch, which is V-stitch, I do think that's quite simple to do. I am planning to do a tutorial for it, but I don't think that it was necessary to have that linked in the pattern, whereas the daisy stitch, it definitely helps to have that. I think it's one of those stitches where the written instructions just make it sound so much more complicated than what it actually is. So that tutorial is live now on my it's live now on YouTube. I'll pop a link up here or here, wherever, so you can have a look at that if you want. If you you won't be able to work the full blanket from the daisy stitch unless you just wanted to do the daisy stitch only. If you wanted to work the full blanket, you will need to purchase the pattern. I am aware that some people who watch me on YouTube don't necessarily follow me on Instagram or don't go on Instagram. When I released this pattern, I did so with a discount on Instagram, and I wouldn't want people to miss out on that in case you're, in case you're not on Instagram but you did want to buy the pattern. So what I've done is popped a discount code on there again. So if you're just watching this and it's the first you've heard of the pattern, you can still get that same discount of 20%. And all you'll need to do is use the code podcast. And I'm going to leave that on for about a week just to give everybody a chance to watch the podcast and catch up with it, and then you'll be able to use that code and get the same discount. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I used 3 balls of this main colour and then just about 2 of the contrast colour, but yes, really pretty blanket, and yeah, worked up so quickly as well. And I'll pop the link to the pattern in case you wanted to check that out in the description box down below. And a huge thank you to anybody, if you're watching, who's bought that pattern already. I really appreciate it. I'm not sure which blanket pattern I'm going to work on next. I'm set to be quite busy, I think, for the next few weeks work wise, so those plans might have to go on hold for now, so we'll see. So as well as the tutorial for the daisy stitch, I've also released another tutorial on YouTube. I've been quite busy tutorial wise recently. I'm enjoying doing them, and I've got plans for a couple more as well. But I also released a tutorial for these lovely flower hexagons, and this is quite an old, well, a very old vintage pattern, and it's much more simple to work than it looks again. It's really pretty. Sorry, my voice is going a little bit. To work this pattern sample, I've used DMC Petra, which is a mercerized cotton thread, and I got quite a lot of colours, but it's gorgeous. Can you see the sheen? I think it's showing up really well on camera actually. And then can you see the twist to the yarn? It's absolutely stunning. I'll just show you a couple more of the colours. I've got a bag full. So yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And I've been using a 2mm hook for these, but for this sample that I've just shown you, I actually used a 3mm because that was the smallest hook that I had at the time. Yeah, isn't it pretty? If you're not seeing that tutorial, I'll pop the link so that you can take a look. Another vintage pattern that I've also worked up is this one. I've not sewn any ends in yet, but I got some new crochet books and I just wanted to have a play around with all of the lovely designs. This one's worked with a 2mm hook. I think it's lovely. So that's what I've been up to tutorial wise. I've also what else have I got to update you with? I've got some other crochet projects as well, but I do have another half finished object, so I'll show you that and then I'll chat with you about works in progress. So I have, it's a half finished object because it is just one sock. So I started this and I showed you this sock last time that we chatted in last episode, because I took this one on holiday with me and I worked on it in the car on the way to the airport, on our way out, and I got to kitchen stitching the toe, left it on the needles and then just promptly forgot about it and didn't do any more knitting on it at all. And that's how it remained. I've actually not been knitting on socks a great deal at all lately. Sock mojo has gone again a little bit, although I'm thinking it's not so much that I've lost my sock mojo as so much that I've just got other projects that I'd rather be working on at the moment that are taking all of my time and attention. But it was sports day last week at Isla's school, and sports day there is a full day thing, not just an hour or two in the afternoon, and it involves quite a lot of just waiting and sitting around really for the adults, and you know, you make small talk with the other parents and things, but then eventually I think by the time it came to the afternoon, everyone was just tired out and sick of talking. So I wanted a project to take with me, and it needed to be something small and portable. And all of my projects at the moment are quite big. I don't have too many small projects. I've got quite a lot of blankets going on at the moment. Yeah, more on those in a little bit. So I dug out this sock and it was still sitting on the needles waiting to be kitchen stitched. So I did that, finished the first sock, and I cast on the second. And I didn't actually get a great deal done at sports day. I just did the cuff. But since then I've worked quite a bit on it. I've got the heel done. So I'm using my Shorty Sock pattern for these, which is just a really simple pattern, but I have switched out the heel. So I'm going to show you on this one because it'll be easier. So in the pattern, I've written the pattern for a heel flap and gusset, which I think is my favourite heel. It's not necessarily my favourite heel to make or to knit, but it's the one that fits me best. I find that heel flaps and gussets tend to be a bit more roomy here on this part of the sock, so they just fit better. But I just fancied a change with this pair, and I've done a fish lips kiss heel, and it's the first time I've done a fish lips kiss heel in ages, but I really liked it. I really like the look of it, and I've been working on that, not a great deal, but just here and there, and yeah, I've managed to get quite a bit done. So I get up quite early in the morning. I think especially when it's school, on school days I get up at about 5:30, 5:45. But I don't know why I'm telling you like really specifically what time I get up, but on a weekend I get up early as well. And I like to get all sorted. I see to the animals, see to the guinea pigs and Oscar. And I'm not sure where Oscar is, but I see to those. And then I like to sit, and I like to have half an hour to sit in peace and quiet and have a cup of tea, and I do half an hour of knitting. And I had been working on some other projects, but I've taken to working on socks again in the morning. And I found that just knitting for that, you know, just for that small amount of time, just half an hour a day in the morning, it really adds up, and you'd be amazed at how much progress, you actually make. So yeah, I've been really enjoying working on those just in the morning, and I've got 2 other pairs of socks on the needles at the moment as well that I've not touched, but once these are done I'm going to pick those back up as well, and yeah, try and get those off the needles, or at least moving forwards, because I do have some lovely sock yarn that it would be nice to cast on. Okay, what shall I show you next? I've got 2 more crochet projects, and I've got another knitting project to show. Let's show the knitting one because it's sitting here next to me. So I apologise, but I can't remember whether I've shown you this before. I know that I showed you this in its original form because this actually started out as my brioche shawl. So if you remember, it had the sections of garter stitch, and then the sections of brioche, and I had some mini skeins that I was using to make it, most of which are from my from Beehive yarns. Last year I signed up to a mini skein club just for the first half of the year, and then I actually ended up cancelling the subscription because I couldn't keep up with using them. So I'm using those, and I'm using drop snowed in, I think it's just in white or off-white for the contrast colour. And I ended up frogging the brioche shawl, or the brioche version, and again, I'm sorry if I've already told you that, but I actually ended up starting just a really lovely plain garter stitch shawl as well. Garter stitch shawl. I'm getting all my tongue tied, and I've done quite a bit of it, and oops, I'm trying to show you the best way. Even if I do say so myself, I think it's looking absolutely gorgeous. the colours on this are just, they're so calming to work on. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer so that I can show you each section. So it starts off here with this lovely blue-green colour, and then it fades. And then we've got these kinds of, what do you call these colours? Kind of browny, orangey, pinky colours. They're really beautiful anyway. So this is just a really simple garter stitch shawl. I'm not following a pattern for it. It's my own pattern still. And it just increases along one side. So it's asymmetric and it's striped all the way along, and it's got this lovely simple I-cord edge to finish it. But it's so enjoyable to work on, and I think this shawl actually is one of the reasons why I've not been working on my socks quite so much lately, because I always like to have just a nice, simple, easy project that I don't have to think too much on about as I'm working on it. Just for in an evening, or you know, while I'm chatting to someone or watching TV. And normally I would knit socks to do that. They'd be my kind of go-to TV knitting project, but I've been working on the shawl. You won't believe how much it encourages me to knit on it when I've got the prospect of colour changes coming up, because I just want to get to the next colour to see how it's going to look. So I've been really enjoying working on that. I am going to be releasing that as a pattern, but obviously I've got to finish the full shawl yet. I have also been working on my advent blanket. Let me hold that up to show you. So this is not a hugely bigger, but I have done quite a bit of work on it this month since the last time that we chatted. And this is how it's looking. Look away now if you don't like ends. I have sewn quite a lot of them in. I've got all these. Oh, the horror. So I'm 10 colours in, and I'm using my advent calendar to make this, hence why I'm calling it my advent blanket. And I'm using each colour once, and here's my yarn ball with all the rest of the colours in. As I've worked one square, I've been popping the colour away in a bag so that I'm getting less and less colours, and so I can keep track of where I'm up to with it. And each one of these squares is made up of 9 smaller squares, and if you're wanting to know how to work these mini granny squares and how to join them, because I join them as I go, I have a tutorial for that, and I'll pop a link so you can take a look at that if you want. But for this, I'm just joining them in blocks, and each block uses about, I think, about 8 or 9 grams of yarn. So it's perfect for an advent project, because if you've got a 10 gram advent, you'll get 1 square done. If you've got 20 grams, as mine are, you'll be able to do 2 squares. So I'm just doing it in a random order. I've not really thought about the colour placement. I'm just going to go through and use all 24 colours. And then once I've done that, I'm going to work all 24 again. So it's going to be a huge blanket, hopefully, by the time that it's finished. It is quite time consuming. It is quite slow to progress, just because the squares are so small and just because there's quite a lot of ends to sew in. I tend to crochet on it for quite a while and then take a break and sew all the ends in, and then go back to crocheting and adding more squares to it. The good thing about this blanket is because it's just worked in, join as you go, you don't have to work it in any particular order. So at the minute I'm going around here with these white parts, but next I might go along here and then add the next colour here, or I could potentially come over here and add that next colour. I was worried that this colour actually wasn't going to show up, but I think it does. It shows up better than what I thought. So yeah, that's a relief. I think it's looking really nice. It's really fun to work on. The other project that I've been working on a lot recently is quite an old project now, and it's one that I've not worked on in a very long time, and that is my Attic 24 Fireside Blanket. So I got the yarn pack for this at Christmas, and that's when I very first started it, and just for various reasons I just didn't get on with it. I didn't enjoy working on it that much. We just get, that's where I'm keeping all of the yarn. So you buy the yarn in a pack from Wool Warehouse. My mum got me this for Christmas, and I'm keeping it all in the original bag that it came in, just to store it and keep it all together. The colours are very similar, especially, let me show you. So these are very similar, but also these, and then the purples look quite similar as well. And as I hold them up and show you them on the screen, you're probably thinking, well, they don't look that similar. But when I was working on this, when I originally got the blanket pack back in December, when it was very dark, dreary winter days, I found it incredibly difficult to tell the difference between them, and I found it quite frustrating. So I wanted to work on it while it's summer and while we've got the good light, because I definitely want to get it finished. The other reason I think I found it frustrating to work on is because I was working on it a square at a time. Anyway, so let me hold it up and then you'll know what I'm talking about. I've done loads on it. I'm really pleased with my progress on it. Okay, here's the top. I've done loads. In fact, it's not even showing it fully on the screen. I have been powering through this. So this is worked, same as my other blanket, my Advent blanket, is worked using the join as you go method. So originally when I started, I was doing it square by square. So I'd work this one, this one, this one, all along the row, and then you do this and this one, and a big square, this and this, and so on and so forth. And I think because I was doing it a square at a time, I just wasn't seeing any progress on it. It was just taking forever, and I just found that a little bit disheartening. I think it put me off working on it a little bit, because it felt like I was working on it so much but not gaining anything from it. The other thing that I found frustrating was the fact that this is the first time I've used this yarn. So this blanket pack uses Stylecraft Highland Heathers, and it's really nice wool. It's 100% acrylic, but all of the colours are, can you see them, how they're kind of mild with different colours running through them. So they're really lovely, but because it's the first time I've used them, I'm really unfamiliar with the colours. So I've been working my way through them, and I would have to get, so say I'm working this square here, I would have to get this colour, and this colour out ready, and I would line them up, ready to do. And because I'm not familiar with the colours, it was just taking me ages to find which one. It's like, oh, I don't know which colour that is, and I was having to search through all the bag and make sure I had the right one. Whereas if it was, say, just Stylecraft Special DK, I would just know. I would say, right, I need this colour, and I would go straight to it. So what I've actually ended up doing with this blanket is setting up a bit of a production line. So I went through, I mean, you can get this pattern for free, but the printed pattern comes with it in the yarn pack. So this is, look, there's so many of them. This is all the colour order for each of the granny squares, and it starts on here as well. So it's those, all of those, and all of those, and you can see that I've only got these to do now, and then I'm onto the border. So I went through and I worked all of the first rounds, and then I added all of the second rounds too, and I just kept them all in, I'm going to say in a pile, not in a pile. I kept them all together in order. So it's just made it so much faster as I came to working on the blanket. I've just been able to get that last colour and join it as well, and then go on to the next square. And doing it that way, it just seems to have worked up so much faster. It's been so much more enjoyable. The reason I've been wanting to power through this as well is because I've got another project lined up, and it's another big blanket project, so I really wanted to get this one out of the way and done with. So hopefully the next time I chat to you at the end of next month, I'd like this to be finished. I've got lots of ends to sew in on this one as well. I am really looking forward to working the border on this one. So once you've worked all of the squares in the middle, I'm sure you'll be familiar with the pattern, but these are all the squares in the middle, and then you have to work this incredibly big border. And it's the border that I'm looking forward to working on the most. So I think once I've finished all the centre part, I'll be good, and I'll sew all the ends in, and then I can start the border and just enjoy it. It's kind of like how I can't relax in an untidy house. So say if I'm looking forward to, I don't know, watching a nice film or something, I'll have to make sure that the house is tidy, and then I can relax and sit and enjoy the film. So that's what this blanket's going to be like. I'm going to get all the centre done, sew all the ends in, and then I can relax and enjoy the border. And probably it's like makes me sound really strange. So that's everything that I've been working on. So I'm aiming to get that finished. I would like to add some more squares to my advent blanket pattern, and I'd like to get those socks finished as well and continue working on my shawl. So I am going to go now because I've got to get back to work, but I hope you've enjoyed watching. It's been really nice chatting and catching up with you, and I will see you at the end of next month to show you everything that I've been working on during July. So take care everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.